It's been with us 8 years, but they've been 8 wonderful years. Toyota 86. '86 is now and has always been, or at least since its release, one of my favourite sports cars. It's the sister car to Subaru's BRZ, and it's made on the same line right next to BRZ. There are a few subtle differences apart from badges, but they've both got the same 152 kilowatt flat 4 engine, and that means that the cylinders are laid opposite each other. Since the launch, there have been a couple of upgrades such as automatic LED headlights, LED running lights and indicators, and below that are driving lights, and concealed just behind here is the headlight washer. The lowest splitter is all business. Along the side there are a couple of neat vents, and this, the 86 symbol. And apart from being an 8 and a 6, it's also 2 horizontally opposed cylinders on each side. This special pack also gets Brembo brakes and upgraded discs, as well as this rather excellent little spoiler, and I think these LED taillights look absolutely brilliant. If you've got the key about your person, you can open the boot like so. The seats go down in a 60-40 split, and rumour has it that you can fit 4 tyres in for a track day. So take them from home, swap them when you get there, and then swap them back at the end of the day. And finally, one of the other things that 86 got as an upgrade over the years is the steering wheel got a few buttons. Believe it or not, when it first came out, there were no steering wheel buttons. And this audio system is quite basic. It is just a drop-in system. Below that, 2-zone climate control. And below that, the air conditioning buttons. And just to prove that this is a track car, it even has a track button. The Alcantara seats are quite smart, but the cup holders look like a little bit of an afterthought. There's a drop-in section which needs to be moved forward, but you can't move it forward if you've got something plugged into the power outlet. But because this is a drift car, it's got a manual parking brake. The drive is engaging, and that sweet little engine is just amazing. Gear changes are quickly dispatched. And as you take off up a hill, there's a pleasing little burble. And it's that sound that anyone that's driven a horizontally opposed engine will know. It's a particular sound. In fact, it reminds me slightly of a 3-cylinder engine. The 86 is nice and quiet, much quieter than it is at speed. But it's in the corners where 86 really comes to life. It's just beautiful. It's so light and nimble. And because it has McPherson struts at the front and double wishbones at the rear, it feels incredibly stable. And on this quite narrow bush road, it is absolutely beautiful. But when you get into slightly faster bends, it is just a joy. Now these bends are only 80 kilometers an hour, and we're actually going slower than that. But it does go to show that you don't have to be going warp 10 around a corner to have a good time. Though I have to say it does feel like I'm going around corners at warp 10. You can hear that little engine screaming for mercy. There's no gear indicator, which would have been a nice touch, but there is a digital speedo in front of the large central tacho, because this car is a drifter's car. This car is a track car, even though it's only got just over 150 kilowatts. Modders love it. They've turboed the 4-cylinder engine, and they've lowered the suspension, and there are even places underneath where you can put your own bracing. When this car first came out, there were aftermarket kits of bolt-on bracing. For some reason, Toyota knew that this is the kind of car people were going to want to modify. Now, interestingly, and 86 follows in a long tradition of Toyota sports cars like MR2. And it ranks alongside my other favourite sports car, the Mazda MX-5, and for the same reason. They're such fun to drive. They come in a manual as well, which gets big extra marks, though the automatic in this is absolutely sensational. Oh, this is just a joy. It's changing gears, it's changing direction, it's changing revs, and all of it without any kind of protest. And even with enthusiastic driving, we're still managing 7.9 litres per 100 kilometres, which I think is extremely good. So the thing with 86 is that you could, theoretically, go on a romantic weekend away. There's plenty of room in the boot. There's enough room for 4 tyres with the seats down. There ought to be enough room for a couple of overnight bags, so you can sneak away for a romantic weekend. Although there are lots of electronic nannies on this car, it does not have many of the other modern safety gear that you might expect. It doesn't have blind spot monitoring or active steering, so no active lane centering. It doesn't even have autonomous emergency braking. There's no camera up here on the windscreen. And what that means is that you're actually driving the car, as opposed to letting a computer drive it for you. Normally, I get into a car and I'm doing 110, and you can't tell how fast I'm going. I think in this you can very much tell how fast I'm going. It's so noisy. But on your little mini road trip, you're not going to be wanting to take any guests. There is simply no room in that second row of seats. No room. They're for decoration only. And that's just as well. The last thing we want are hangers-on. Just you and your honey and a couple of bags in the back. That's all this week for Toyota 86. Don't forget, if you've liked the film, hit like, leave a comment, and just there to subscribe.